Hello everyone, it's DFA, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing okay because today we are taking a look at the Richelieu versus the brand new tier 8 French heavy cruiser, le Cherbourg. And the reason why I'm comparing these two is because the Cherbourg has a very similar gun layout to the Richelieu, the two quadruple turrets at the front, and to be honest, I absolutely love the Richelieu. It's my favorite ship in the game. I think I've already covered it 3 times on the channel, so really almost as much as the Bismarck, so that's showing you how much I love that thing. And the reason why I love it is it's got the perfect, at least in my eyes, the perfect combination of mobility, firepower and protection. And since I play solo a lot, in fact I almost exclusively play solo, I need ships that are able to handle a variety of situations, basically everything you throw at them, and Richelieu is exactly one of these ships. And so yeah, we see the mobility 36 knots per hour to get into position with your engine accelerator, amazing. The protection is actually quite good on that thing. The AA is quite nice. Enemy planes will hit you, will set you on fire, but they will not be coming back anytime soon. And the only problem with the thing are the guns, because yeah, they are quite accurate, but you only get 8 of them, and they unfortunately do not get any precise aim or rapid reload to increase the DPM, and in fact the Richelieu has the worst DPM of all the tier 8 battleships. So how can a ship with the worst DPM be the best one, or at least in my eyes, my best one? Well, simply because it has all its guns at the same place in front of the ship, and that has 2 implications. Number 1, you are able to use them all the time. And number 2, without exposing yourself too much. If you look at the situation here, I'm only going to peek my 2 turrets out because I want to be punching that Neptune, but I don't want to be a target for the Champagne and the Vladivostok that are right behind. And there you go, yeah, I do lose quite a bit of HP getting into position, but now I am there. I am not only in a position to be dealing damage, but I'm also in a position to be challenging a cap, and I'm retreating slightly because I'm expecting that thing to be shooting torpedoes as we speak, but I want to keep my turrets in position to fire. I want to send a nice volley of shells into his way before his torpedoes come, and sure enough, I do it and I start retreating, and I avoid the spear of death. So you see, that's why the Richelieu is absolutely amazing. And while I'm doing that, you see the enemy CV sending its planes, but I'm immediately putting out the fire, and none of the planes, the whole squadron gets deleted. And when I was talking about the ability to be flexible on the battleship, look at that Vladivostok trying to get into B. I'm immediately in a position to be firing at him with all my guns, and at that range I'm going to be hitting almost every shell, and sure enough, BAM! You see, so that's how you have to play that thing. It is a flexible battle cruiser. It's not a battleship, it's a battle cruiser. You have to be aggressive with it. You have to get into position, you have to get into fights. And if you are finishing a game with that thing with all of your HP, it means you have done something wrong. So there you go. Now all I have to do, because the enemy is not challenging C anymore, the Champagne is running away, and the Neptune is actually trying to tempt a comeback. I'm simply going to relocate to the other side of that island, because I really want to get rid of that Neptune. It's actually fairly dangerous for me. That's the only weakness of the Richelieu. Richelieu is incredibly weak against torpedoes. It doesn't have a lot of HP. Good protection against shells, but really poor torpedo protection. So if I can get rid of that Neptune, then I would be very happy. So I'm bow tanking to that Champagne, and I'm simply going to wait. I'm only exposing what I have to expose, and sure enough, the Neptune, it's not going to be nimble enough to be escaping that salvo, and sure enough, smoke or no smoke, you are going out, and sure enough, that's it. So we are halfway through the game, and we've already played a significant part in that battle. We've captured a base, we've helped our team defend another base, and all of that using our mobility, firepower, and we are still with, I would say, 2/3 of our HP still able to play a significant part into that battle. Now we can actually use our mobility to be chasing that Champagne. So that is why I absolutely love that thing. 36 knots, there is no way this guy is going to escape us. And that is why I absolutely love the Richelieu and its perfect combination of mobility, firepower and protection, provided you use it appropriately. Let's take a look at the next game. And yes, now we are in Cherbourg, but we are still going to be talking about the Richelieu for a couple of minutes. The reason why it's because I want to show you what most people are not really doing right with it. Yeah, because you see, I mean, the fleet mate I have right in front of me, I mean, you see the Richelieu there is ideally positioned, it's incredibly safe, but it's also quite far away from the action, and while you can have a relatively quiet game there, because it's only exposing its turrets, and look at it, there you go, it's in perfect position to be firing and dealing damage, but unfortunately it's way too far to really be effective in the game. So yes, that's why I'm saying that you have to get close with that thing, you have to get involved, and you really have to find opportunities to use the terrain to your advantage to be dealing your damage, because otherwise this is what is going to happen. And we fast forward to the end of the game, and you see the Richelieu has been playing quite a little bit too conservative, a little bit too safe, and just like indoor cats, he did live longer than the outdoor cat, but unfortunately he was not able to influence the outcome of the battle and help his team when he needed it. And so now he ends up being chased by the Cherbourg and being actually targeted by the rest of the team. So it's a very common mistake with the Richelieu, you tend to focus too much on protection and survivability at the expense of mobility and damage. And yeah, you can actually stay alive until the end of the game playing that way, but you will be nowhere near exploiting the potential of that machine to be a carrying game, because I think what I really love about it is it's got a unique carry potential. It really can do everything. It struggles a bit against destroyers, that is true, and that is an area where the Cherbourg is a significant improvement, but it does all the rest absolutely fine. And you saw there a salvo at 9 kilometers, only one managed to pen that thing, all the others bounced and dealt 0 damage. So yeah, it's relatively well protected, the Richelieu, very survivable. But I think we've talked enough about it, you know why I love it. Now we should maybe focus a little bit on the Cherbourg, because yeah, it's going to be a different story, I'm afraid. Let's take a look at the Cherbourg. Yeah, I'm sorry Nexus, I had to feature you on this one. Apologies. Alright, now it's time to talk about the Cherbourg, and yeah, it's... how would you say it? Mixed feelings about this one. When you compare it with the Richelieu, so it's got a couple of differences. Number one, the guns are also 8 guns at the front of the ship, but only 305mm guns. Yes, the reload is a little bit lower, so the DPM is actually fairly comparable in that it's absolute garbage for both ships. But you do get a significant amount of rapid reload charges to somewhat compensate, but let's be honest, it's not a very high damage ship, and I had plenty of battles with that thing, plenty of good ones, a couple of garbage ones. I'm going to show you 2 examples, there will be another battle after this one, which show essentially not how you're supposed to be playing that thing, but the kind of things you should be looking out for, and there will be a common theme in all of the battles that you have seen so far, which I will always end up fighting a Richelieu at some point. So another difference that the Cherbourg has with the Richelieu, it's the mobility. So it is much more mobile, it is a little bit faster with the turbo, you can, engine accelerator, sorry, you can go up to 39, almost 40 knots, so that's really good for what's actually a heavy cruiser. And the acceleration and turn time are much better. Unfortunately, what you are trading for that is a lot of protection, and yeah, you also do not have a lot of AA, to be honest. Yeah, you get an air defense alert 1, but to be honest, it's more for moral comfort. You're not going to be very effective with it shooting down enemy planes. And you see, for example, I mean, it's a heavy cruiser. There are elements of the heavy cruiser gameplay with that thing. It means your priority targets are other heavy cruisers and other light cruisers. That is where you will absolutely shine, but against battleships, unless you manage to get really close, it's going to be complicated. And that's going to be the main challenge with that thing. Because it's at tier 8, and at tier 8 it's pretty much a battleship tier, to be honest, especially with the introduction of the Atlantico. So now if we take a look at that gameplay, we have a DD right behind us at A. I was wondering since the beginning where that thing went, and now I have an idea. I'm not going to chase him because I do not have any sonar, I do not have any radar. If he decides to play the concealment game with me, I'm done. But here we immediately see a difference between Cherbourg and Richelieu. Cherbourg is much more effective at dealing with destroyers than Richelieu will ever be. And yeah, you do get a lot of secondaries with Cherbourg, but you see even against a DD they're not dealing full damage, but you can get them to fire up front a little bit easier. I'm going to be very aggressive against that Scone because, to be honest, he doesn't have the potential to delete me in one salvo, and I tend to be aggressive against destroyers with that thing simply because I can bow tank them. And with the rapid reload I can switch from AP to HE very quickly. I can get several salvos out very easily, and usually bam, that is what happens. So it's very, very good against other destroyers. Now don't get me wrong, the HE on that thing is absolutely abysmal. You get the worst HE DPM of all the tier 8 cruisers. Even the Tone and the Maya, who are basically missing a turret, are actually a better DPM than you. And the AP, well, it's a little bit better, but really, you really need all the help you can get with damage. So you have to get close, you have to use your mobility, because you're not as well protected as Richelieu. You really have to be mobile, to be exploiting opportunities, read the minimap constantly. And here, for example, there is a Bismarck, so I would love to push that Ashitaka, because the Ashitaka is an ideal target for my 305mm guns, but I cannot, and instead I'm going to focus on that Bismarck because it's relatively close, 7 kilometers. That's where I can actually hit him with my main guns quite accurately with my secondaries. But as soon as I sense that he's going to be focusing me and turning his attention on me, I'm going to retreat and use my mobility to get away, because there is absolutely no way I am winning a fight against that guy, even if I am bow tanking. So that's how you have to play the Cherbourg. You have to use the mobility that the Richelieu, well, I would say the agility that the Richelieu does not have, to exploit opportunities on the battlefield. And that Bismarck chooses not to follow me, or maybe he's expecting me to go to the other side of that island, and I'm not going to give him that pleasure. I'm simply going to be running away. I'm expecting him to be targeting me, but he seems to be focusing on the on point C, where I do have a Reaper and another ship. So lucky for me, that salvo is not going to come, and I'm going to relocate, immediately engage in another fight. And that's essentially how you try to play a heavy cruiser. You try to find yourself in a 2 versus 1 situation, because in a 1 versus 1 you're never going to win, except maybe against another light cruiser. Against a DD you are fairly weak, but that's not the case with the Cherbourg. Cherbourg is actually quite capable. Against a battleship you don't stand a chance. So here what you can do is actually, and that's what you see me do here, I can bow tank that Ashitaka. I can try to remain as protected as I can from the Richelieu using the island as cover. There you go, good position there. And I'm bow tanking, so I do get the same features as the Richelieu. I'm able to use all of my guns. But the Bismarck realized that he's made a mistake and he's actually coming back from here. Immediately I'm going to be moving forward, running away. You see that I do get quite a lot of secondaries, but they're not dealing a lot of damage. And they actually have a higher shell arc than the main guns. So you have to lead them a bit more than the main guns. So it took me a couple of games getting used to that, to be honest. It's a bit confusing at first sight. And so now we take a look at the final engagement of that battle, Reaper and Cherbourg versus Richelieu, who's been camping for most of the game, as usual, as you would say. And that is what I did not do with my Cherbourg. Yes, you have to start by being careful. You are a heavy cruiser, you are never going to be able to scout and get away with it. as soon as you sense an opportunity to get close or to focus a target that's busy with something else, you take it and you punch that Richelieu in the face. You use your mobility to get around it, because yeah, the Richelieu, it's nowhere near as agile as that thing, to be honest. And you try to get as much damage as you can using your secondaries as well. But you see, even at such a close range, you really have to target the weak spots of enemy ships. You see, that's what I'm doing there. That's how you deal full damage, because the main armor belt, even at that range, the 305mm are not going to pen. So yeah, you have to get close with that thing. You have to use your agility, and keep in mind that you do not have the concealment to get away with I would say, stealth flanking moves. So it's a bit tricky to be. It's a bit more tricky to play than the Richelieu, to be honest. Let's take a look at the next game. And here we are. Oh, big surprise, only battleships on the enemy team, and there is still a Richelieu, so that's not really an ideal matchmaking for the Cherbourg. We will have to be very, very careful. That's how you have to play that thing. So, I'm going to position at the beginning of the game next to that island, because the Cherbourg does have the best range of all the tier 8 cruisers, almost 13 kilometers, so you can definitely stay a little bit at range, but you should not count on playing the whole game at range, because yes, your guns are simply not going to be able to deal enough damage, and the accuracy is also a problem with that thing, to be honest. I found it a bit hard to be reliably putting shells on target at close to my maximum range, I would say above 10 kilometers. Below 8 kilometers you can start hitting weak spots, superstructure, and then it's fine, but that should be your engagement range against other battleships. Your concealment ring should be it. So you see me being a little bit careful, you see me not being too aggressive, and I'm already planning my next move. I'm looking at that island to the left, and I'm thinking, if the enemy team gives me the opportunity, I will move there to be able to flank them, push them, use my rapid reload. But so far I have to be careful. Unfortunately, my DD decides to, well, not to scout, and so yeah, but luckily my other battleships are entering the cap area and they are capping, so we are safe. I can stay relatively safe. I do not need to take aggressive action. And you see the Cherbourg at range, it's not going very well, to be honest. The accuracy does not let you hit weak spots of enemy ships. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I mean, I'm dealing a bit of damage to that Bismarck, but yeah, it's going to take me forever to take him down, and I'm not even sure I can do it within the 7 minutes of the game at that range. So yeah, Cherbourg, it's not a damage machine, and it's also really not as well protected as the Richelieu, so that's why you have to be really, really careful in the beginning. With Richie, I would already be a lot closer to the action. I would actually probably be closer to the island in front of us and trying to really, really annoy the enemy team, but not with that thing. You will be deleted very, very quickly. So keep your distance at the beginning of the game, sense opportunities, and that is what I'm actually sensing now. There is an isolated Richelieu camping right in the middle, exactly what you should not be doing. And I'm going to punish him. I'm going to relocate, I'm going to use my agility to move forward, and I'm going to be moving to the other island. So that's how I play that thing. I simply move from island to island, trying to get into position. There you go. I do not want to expose myself too much in front of two enemy BB, so that's why I'm using the engine accelerator, 39 knots, really, really nice top speed with that thing. And hopefully we can get into a more favorable positions. You notice that I'm also not staying too far from the rest of my team. The Gneisenau is right to my left. I mean, those are heavy cruisers, they are force multipliers, so they're not really meant to be, how can I say, they're not really meant to be played completely solo, isolated. And you see that North Carolina, I'm a little bit worried that he's starting to push me, so I'm going to bow tank him. You can expect to be surviving a lot longer than you would in any other ships, but don't expect to be taking out a battleship 1v1 while bow tanking. It's not going to work. Now the only thing you can do is you can actually wait until he has fired, and then you can start rotating to put your secondaries on target, because the firing arcs are much better than the Richelieu. The Richelieu, you really have to be completely parallel to your target to be using your 2 secondaries turrets. There you have a bit more flexibility, but please do not show too much broadside, because you will get punished, and hope that he actually tries to fire at somebody else. But there you go, he does not, and he does miss that salvo surprisingly, so that's why I'm able to get away with it, and I'm able to hit his weak spots, and that is where your 305mm guns become very good, when you're able to put them on target against weak spots of enemy battleships. There concretely you're going to be dealing a lot more damage. So yeah, there you go, you see me do just that and finishing that North Carolina. And now it's time to finally be pushing that Richelieu. After 2 attempts, can I finally get my Richelieu kill with my Cherbourg? Suspense, let's take a look at it. But you see, I mean, that's how you explode the agility of that thing. As soon as you identify a lot of situations, you have to press forward, and yeah, I'm close to full HP, so yeah, I can take a bit more risks there. There are still 2 battleships on the enemy team. The bot CV is right between the 2 of them, so it's not going to be a major problem. Yeah, Citadel on the Richelieu, to be honest, it's not going to happen very often with the Cherbourg. I'm also not using an APC as commander here. This is my regular account, not my press account, so I'm also not using the legendary camo or premium consumable, so blah 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 blah, you get the idea. But to be honest, I'm using Roar of Steel because you really need all the help you can get with the accuracy on that thing, and Roar of Steel helps a little bit with the range and the accuracy, so please do me a favor and use that as well. And for the rest, what can we say? The Richelieu, it's doing everything he should not be doing there. He should have been close to an island, so he was actually only facing 1 threat at the time, because there it's actually still, it's trying to reorientate towards me. It's still firing at my team actually, but I'm able to flank him very easily, and so that's why you stay near those islands, because you want to retreat and you want to be able to only face 1 opposition at the time. Yeah, that's really not how you should be playing that thing, to be honest. And we're going to activate our rapid reload, and at that range we will be dealing full damage, and that's the end of the game for the Richie. We will be focusing on the Nagato after that, and that will be the second gameplay with the Cherbourg. So time to debrief that thing. Well, it's nowhere near as powerful as the Richelieu. It doesn't have, even with the 4 rapid reload 2 charges that you get your damage potential, it's still much lower. You really have to get close to the action to be using your guns, the full potential of your guns. The accuracy, it's simply not very good, and yeah, so it's still... I'm overperforming my average stats with the Richelieu. With this one, I'm right on par. So I'm not underperforming with it, but to be honest, it's not very easy to play. And if you simply try to bow tank from the back with it, you're not going to get anywhere. You really have to use your agility, your mobility, and your map awareness to exploit situations. But keep in mind that even while doing that, you will still be less effective than a Richelieu. It's not your fault, it's the game's treatment of heavy cruisers, generally heavy cruisers. I don't think... Yeah, the game does not give them justice, does not do them justice, to be honest. And this is just... so if you've enjoyed the Richelieu, you might actually like that thing, but don't expect it to be nearly as competitive as Richie. Richie remains my favorite ship in the game. So there you go, end of the Cherbourg review. I will be guiding the rest of the line and providing you reviews as I move along. In the meantime, stay safe, take care. That was DFA, signing out. Bye bye!